It was a mystery that broke.
Hey bros, what's going on? This is Cotton. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because subscribing makes you feel good.
Hi, hello everyone. Welcome to the channel. I'm Cheryl and this is True Crime and Other Stuff. Thanks for being here, where I like to bring you the facts about true crime, the missing, current events, or anything I find interesting or important. Today, I'd like to talk about the Delphi murders and what the hell is going on. First, we're going to take a look at the court TV video.
Broke the hearts of two families, terrified a small community, and touched the world. The murders of two young girls, Abby Williams and Libby German. The case became known as the Delphi murders. The setting, a small Indiana town of just 3,000 people. On February 13th, 2017, Libby and Abby went hiking. The two teenagers were good friends and had the day off from school. The weather was unseasonably warm, but when Libby and Abby did not show up when they were supposed to get picked up, their families began to worry, and they began to search. Then, the next day, the bodies of these two girls were found, both victims of murder. Then, over the course of the next 5+ years, there were no answers, no arrests, just a series of disjointed clues, like two sketches that looked nothing alike, a video of the suspected killer, and a short audio recording of his voice. Then things got even stranger when police said they were looking for anyone connected to an Anthony Schatz social media account, which was not connected to the male model in the photos, but connected to this man who was arrested for child porn. Then came the arrest of Richard Allen for the murders of the girls, someone who was not on anyone's radar. Now tonight, for the very first time, we get some insight into Allen's defense and what he says really happened to Abby and Libby. A ritualistic killing committed by members of a paganistic religious cult. Tonight, we take a look at this unexpected, shocking twist as we continue to investigate the Delphi murders.
Wow, can you believe this? Like, they could have come up with this a long time ago. Why is it coming out now? And why did it take so long? And I just have so many questions. Let's watch the rest of this.
I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This next hour, totally unexpected, completely out of left field. Something no one here at Court TV, no one on this program was anticipating. Today, for the first time, getting some more of the details associated with the murders of Abby and Libby. Let's remember, this case went unsolved for 5 years. More than 5 years.
Yeah, 6 years.
And it was heartbreaking, but it was frustrating. It seemed like this was a case that could be solved. Small town, not a lot of...
Yeah, and I thought it would be solved right away because the girls videotaped the guy on the bridge and then it came out catfishing and all that. I thought they would have solved it a long time ago. But I guess not.
People in and out of the area where these murders took place. You had some witnesses who saw things. You had evidence that was left at the scene. You had people who were there and people who said that they were there. But it took more than 5 years. Now, they investigated several different theories here because anytime you look at this case, there's very suspicious people with some connection to these two girls, including a child pornographer. You've got another man who's got a questionable past. His property is close to where everything is found, but lies about where he was on the day and the times of the murders. So you had things that seemed like obvious places to go, but it was frustrating, but it was confusing at the same time, because then we had a video of the actual killer, but they couldn't. And then they had sketches. Well, if you have a video of the killer, why do you need sketches? And then there were two sketches, and they looked nothing alike. And then all this hubbub about some.
Yeah, and the sketches looking nothing alike was really freaking me out at the beginning. I'm like, well, not at the very beginning, but when the second sketch came out, I'm like, what in the heck? These don't look anything alike. Okay, what's going on? Is there more than one person?
Social media profile that they were very interested in, and none of it made any sense. There was no connecting the dots to all these things, but it seemed like there was a lot.
And they kept it very private, so we had nothing to go by. We didn't even know how they were unalived for the longest time. It was crazy.
A lot of information, enough to solve the case. And then Richard Allen appears on the scene. And all of us who've been covering this case and looking at every piece of information that was made public say, well, who's this guy? Where did he come from? Apparently the local CVS.
And also, he was interviewed that day and admitted being there, and the file got filed away, and they later, years later, they decided to, oh, let's look through all these files. Oh, let's talk to this guy that we talked to before. What the hell's going on?
But then as we went through the pages of some of the affidavits, we learned that this is someone who was there that day and told a member of, I guess it was law enforcement. It wasn't necessarily the people who were investigating the crime, but somebody connected to the park system, that he was there that day. Like immediately said he was there. And then you look at him, and then you look at the guy in the bridge, and you say, well, kind of the same build. Maybe we should follow up with this guy. But they didn't, until they took another look at the file after 5 years and then said, oh, maybe we need to look at this guy again. And then connected him allegedly to the scene through ballistics, an unshot casing that came out that's found at the scene, a bullet that's found at the scene, that they can connect to a gun that he owns. That's how they're going to connect him, plus eyewitness testimony, plus the video on the bridge. That's how they're going to try to prove that he's the one that did it.
And that's why they came out with these documents, because they didn't want the evidence at the house where they searched the house. They're trying to get the search warrant thrown out. So they came up with this weird shit.
But today, like I said, unexpected, out of left field, 130 pages worth of information in just one of the filings that was released publicly before it was then subsequently sealed from the defense.
These documents are just crazy. They detail all kinds of things. They put out people's names. I can't believe they did this. It's crazy.
And the defense is laying out all the information. And the headline in all of this, which we're going to deal with first, is that they are pointing the finger in a very specific direction as to who's responsible for this, and it's not Richard Allen. It's some sort of a religious sect/cult that follow Odinism. And it was a sacrifice Wow. And
So are they going for the satanic panic thing, like West Memphis 3? This is crazy.
they also released in the 130 pages, and we'll go through some of it tonight, what the scene was described like. And they submitted pictures, but those have not been released publicly. But they describe what happened to Abby and Libby and how their bodies were found. And the description does seem very ritualistic. And we had heard murmurs about that.
Warning.
But now, for the first time, the defense in...
This shit gets really crazy. So I'm just warning you now.
their motion that they filed and the evidence that they're trying to use to support it are calling on all the stuff from the investigation that they say, wait a minute, all of this was happening. There was an investigation into this religious cult or sect and the people involved in that. And it was never followed up. And there's members of law enforcement, 3 specific members of law enforcement who continued down that road and were upset that they weren't following that road. But now here we are. Richard Allen is accused of doing all of this by himself. The defense says he did not, and then they're pointing the finger tonight. So what we're going to do in the next hour is go through some of these allegations. We're going to be on this all week because there's a lot to go through from a lot of different levels. But let's begin with this allegation that this religion has something to do with what happened to Abby and Libby, or everything to do with what happened to Abby and Libby. So this is from the defense motion that they filed in court. Take a look. Members of a pagan Norse religion called Odinism, now this is key, I think, hijacked by white nationalists. So they're pointing the finger at white nationalists who, according to the defense, hijacked this religion for their own purposes. Odinism. Ritualistically sacrificed Abigail Williams and Liberty German. That is the headline. Odinism is the pagan religion referenced above, and its followers are called Odinites. Odinists are enamored of Viking Nordic culture. Evidence supports that at the crime scene. These murdering Odinites left behind obvious signatures, symbols in the forms of runes. These runes were formed with sticks fashioned with tree branches and painted using the blood of Liberty German. This is sick stuff, folks. This is sick. Sticks and tree branches were deliberately, carefully, and proficiently placed on each girl in a certain arrangement, mimicking certain runes. At least one of the branches appeared to have its end cut off cleanly by some type of tool like an electric saw, providing proof of a preconceived plan. Additionally, the blood of Liberty German was used as the paint to mark a tree with a rune that looks similar to the letter F. With a simple Google search, these runes would be identifiable as one of the many calling cards of this pagan religious cult. Okay, let's dive a little deeper into this. Joining me tonight from Washington, D.C., retired police commander, host of the Profiling Evil podcast, also an expert in cults and types of cases like this. Mike King is with us. Mike, great to see you tonight. This is extremely surprising. Wasn't expecting it. We're going through a lot tonight. Let's start with this description of the sticks and everything else, and this religion, Odinism. My understanding, Odinism goes back a long, long way.
Yeah, I mean, I remember looking at Odinism as part of looking into pagan belief systems. And this Odinism is separate from what you'd see in Judaism or Islam or Christianity. It's a real focus on these Nordic and Germanic gods. So think, for lack of a better example here, think of Marvel Comics, because that Thor, the guy with the big hammer, and his little brother Loki, who caused all the trouble, they were the children of Odin. Their father was Odin, and he is this guy who gave up his eye in search of more wisdom and other kinds of things. And so as people look at these different worship systems, you have people that are looking at monotheistic belief systems, like many Christians do, one God out there, or you have polytheistic religious belief systems that look at many gods. And we really came to know this when we were doing the Who Killed King Tut stuff that I worked on with Greg Cooper. And that polytheistic belief system is actually what led to Tut's death. So you can't discount these kinds of things when you hear them, and you really have to dig in and try to understand them. But you also can't go down a rabbit hole without evidence that's supportive of it. And what we're hearing is some pretty interesting stuff.
Odinism. Take a look. Here's what they are alleging also, that there was a failure to pursue the Odinist links. A particular Odinite from Logansport posted on social media images mimicking the very runes found at the crime scene. A crime scene unreleased and unknown to the general public even to this day. So they're saying this person is posting runes, these images, letters, whatever. He was an Odinite whose son had been dating Abby. An image of two women, either dead or posed, as if they were dead on the ground in what appeared to be a forest. Both women had tree limbs and sticks arranged on their bodies. One of the women had her arm stretched out above her head, similar to the way that Libby's arm was stretched above her head. Wow. Wow, that's huge.
Wow, I was right. Oh my goodness. How can they? Defense is really doing their job, aren't they? Well, you can't say they didn't do their job. That's for sure.
Right? Okay, let's bring in our guests. Joining us in studio, co-host and producer of...
Okay, I think I'm going to stop here, and on the next one, we'll get into this some more. So thanks for watching, and have a beautiful day.
Hey bros, what's going on? This is Cotton. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because subscribing makes you feel good.
Social media.